Juneteenth Festival Incorporated exists exclusively for charitable and educational purposes. Our mission is to actively preserve the broad spectrum of African American heritage and culture by engaging in educational and cultural activities which will benefit the community as a whole. The Juneteenth Festival in Buffalo was started in 1976 by the Build Unity, Independence, Liberty, and Dignity organization.
Bill was basically an activist organization, mainly trying to get our people jobs, which is very important, better education, better housing, and into businesses.
The Build organization actually became a better teacher than we actually had in college, because what they taught us was real. It wasn't theoretical. It was dealing with everyday life kinds of issues. So the Build organization, I have to thank them for that, because what they did is they gave us the balance that you never got in school.
The activist group wanted a relevant alternative to the country's bicentennial celebration.
Every time you turned the television on, you saw something about the bicentennial celebration. And as an African American, I personally felt left out. I mean, I didn't feel that I had anything to be excited about the bicentennial celebration, what George Washington did, what Nathan Hale and all these old patriots did, because in my mind, all these guys supported slavery.
The Build organization realized that July 4th meant very little to African American freedom. So they went looking for something that would represent African Americans and their move towards liberation.
Research unveiled an existing holiday, Juneteenth, a celebration of the ending of slavery celebrated June 19th and recognized as a state holiday in Texas and Oklahoma. Build organizers decided to block off about 15 blocks of Jefferson Avenue, the then Main Street of Buffalo's African American community, for one weekend.
We were trying to be fruitful. We thought the celebration might also focus attention back on Jefferson Avenue and assist in reviving that area as a business district.
At that time, Jefferson Avenue was largely largest commercial area in the black community. There were many stores, and it was like the main street. At one time, William Street in Buffalo was one of the main streets years ago. But Jefferson Avenue, where we could have the merchants in that area be able to involve themselves in this project, and as a result, try to have them benefit from this holiday and this effort.
We remembered the C&B Men's Shop.
Yes.
And I think the other one was called Red Carpet. It was a men's shop up on, and there was tailor shops. Everything that you could wear on your body, you could buy on Jefferson.
That's true.
And the message was, look, this was our major economic strip at one time. It would be nice to see that happen again, and if Juneteenth could make that happen, so be it. And we dedicated Juneteenth to that cause.
We, again, when I say we, I'm saying the Juneteenth Committee, not just Bill. Bill was just the umbrella organization to funnel things through.
Right.
Okay. We, again, knew that it was going to take a lot of work to get people to understand Juneteenth. I had comments to people when I approached them about Juneteenth. Oh, there's no such day. That's just a fictitious thing that you're trying to make up. No. And what Juneteenth meant was a celebration of slaves being free in this country.
It was a major project. And for about 9 months before it happened, I think the organization turned all of its resources almost to making Juneteenth happen. We had several special committees for entertainment, for concessions, for the Malika contest, for sports, for youth, for seniors. We had several committees working in at the same time.
The publicity aspect of it, we wanted to do something that could put the history of it down and that you could have it for years to come, so that when people reflect back on it, especially people, if you're like me, where your memory's not all that great, you can reflect back on it and see that. And that was this. And I did the first journal on the committee. We wanted to kind of provide the structure of the foundation for what it was we were trying to do. So it was going to be on Jefferson Avenue. And we knew at the time we wanted to show what the vision was for Jefferson. The vision was quite different than what it was at the time. Jefferson was just hanging on in those days as a business district.
Right.
And people were starting to leave Jefferson, to close the businesses, but there were never any for sale signs, which we found to be interesting. There was the people left, the businesses left, but they never sold the buildings. They just closed them up. So we started taking pictures of that, saying that we want, and we went into the other parts of town and said we want this, and not necessarily this part, which was basically a boarded up community.
The artists, the few artists that we had around, we had nothing more to do. There was nobody getting us to do murals, and especially that we could get paid for. So we decided that we would paint the murals on Jefferson. And it was not lost on Jefferson because it needed it at that time. We got ourselves together and painted those murals on those windows. And we got a lot of good art out of it. And as a result, when people saw it, we decided, why don't we invite other people to come out, not just the artists, because it's supposed to be about economics. And you don't have to be an artist to set up. And I was impressed that the next Saturday we had people on every corner selling jewelry, things that they had made. Wow. And that was a good feeling.
Very happy to welcome everybody here to our first annual Juneteenth celebration in Buffalo and Western New York. Hey. Okay? Now the parade is on its way. I can hear the drums. I think I can hear the drums.
This is interesting because it was a lot of fun. Wanted to do something that would something we could sell or just some memento. And also with silk screening, something I hadn't done much. I learned it in school and I just came up with the idea. We made pennants and we made these little shirts. Some call it muscle shirts. And what's really something about it, these shirts were just $2. And people say, could you give me a break?
Yeah.
But I just really enjoyed it to see people wearing these. The boxers wore them, the runners wore them.
There was another Juneteenth t-shirt with the logo and the continents of Africa and the United States merging.
Right.
And we had so many of those shirts. I swear I must have, I literally wore those shirts throughout my childhood.
If you go back and look at those clips of Juneteenth, especially from 1976, you see those young people going up and down the street. They were so proud. This was us. It wasn't the Allentown Festival, you know. It wasn't the Italian Festival. Yeah, this was exactly for us, by us. And we paid for it. We didn't have to get any loans. We didn't have to get any grants from anywhere. It was one of the most beautiful things that I ever seen when we had that on Jefferson. And when we saw the clips from all of Jefferson, where we can see all of the black people up and down Jefferson, and no arguing, no fighting. You know, we were buying from each other.
What I discovered is that there were a lot of people in Buffalo who felt the same way I did about the bicentennial. So when the Juneteenth thing came along, African American was happy to find something that they could identify with.
After a few years, the festival outgrew Jefferson Avenue and is now held in Martin Luther King Jr. Park.
When we moved, it was basically easy to recognize that the growth that we had would not contain, Jefferson would not be able to, take care of that. Tents and all those different things. And the number of people increased.
Now the largest free African American festival in Western New York. Juneteenth attracts more than 50,000 guests annually. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated is a member of the International Festival and Events Association. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation established in 1985 and is an all-volunteer organization with no paid staff.
We needed to go to a corporation format because it allowed us to approach or appeal to people and funds that are not available to unincorporated groups. Also, by incorporating, you put some liability, you put some limits on the liability of people who are involved in putting on the events.
I thought one time if I resigned, it wouldn't be nobody to carry on Juneteenth. But I'm telling you, I have the greatest board, which I'm president emeritus. But this board that's carrying on Juneteenth is out of this world.
Claudia Sims was the first president of Juneteenth Festival. Claudia Sims really explained to us what Juneteenth, how important Juneteenth was to this community. We saw it in her actions, we saw it in her movement, we saw it in her body language, in her every day until her, even her latter period of her latter years, she was still active as far as Juneteenth and made sure that Juneteenth occurred. That was a strong lady.
On November 25th, 1998, Marine Midland Bank donated a former bank building at 1517 Genesee Street, Buffalo, New York, to us to use as our headquarters. Since that day, Juneteenth Festival Incorporated found itself going in a new direction, one of expansion. Not only do we utilize our headquarters for Juneteenth meetings, storage of festival equipment and supplies, and office space, but various community groups such as the Buffalo Kwanzaa Committee and Crusaders Marching Unit have used the facility as a meeting place. For a while, a local church used the building on occasion for worship purposes. In 2012, Emoja drum and dance classes began on a weekly basis and continue sporadically during warm weather. We rent our hall to the general public for private parties, funeral repasts, and memorial services. Our board of directors varies from 12 to 19 members. The board of directors is a working board and each board member has specific duties. During and after the festival, board membership consists of committed members from the community, including an original Build member, a festival founder, retired educators, and an internationally known artist and keeper of African culture and education. There are also about 20 committees that plan activities for the festival. Counting the people who work year-round and those who come out to volunteer for the festival, we have about 125 to 150 volunteers each year.
What happens is we have volunteers on the day of the festival, and sometimes we don't see them until that day of, and they'll show up. Then we have volunteers all through the year. Just remember, all board members are volunteers. All committee chairs are volunteers. All right, and the committee chairs, when they get together, they meet every once a month, and then as we get closer to Juneteenth, they might meet once or twice or even 3 times a month, depending on what the situation is. And also the board. Remember, we're all the volunteers, nobody gets a stipend or pay.
Our festival is always held on the teen weekend in June and is family oriented. We encourage adults to come out and bring their children to the festival rather than just send them. There is no admission charge for the festival. Our festival usually has an annual theme. Previous themes have been striving to keep our tradition and culture alive, the time of times, and celebration of freedom and unity in the community. In 2005, we adopted the African proverb, if we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Since 2011, our theme is breaking the invisible chains, implying that we are still chained to the repercussions of enslavement. Activities at the festival vary from year to year. Some activities are traditional and some are reoccurring depending on staffing and funding. Activities which have taken place in the past and will occur again are a job fair, drill team competition, sports competitions and demonstrations, plays, lectures, Boy Scout encampment, etc. Juneteenth standards are the parade, which has over 100 participating groups, entertainment on 2 stages by local artists, exhibits, children's activities, a health pavilion, which now includes a healing garden, free distribution of donated books, usually over 5,000 books annually, a heritage tent manned by volunteers from the Afro-American Historical Society, bus tours discussing the local Underground Railroad history and its sites, and of course, our vendors. At our festival, there are more than 150 vendors, which include about 25 food vendors. Our vendors sell ethnic wares, and some local businesses also set up booths to advertise their products. However, our biggest group of vendors are those who provide information to the community. Community resource vendors provide voter registration, higher education information, and literature describing their services. There are also pre and post festival activities such as a 5K race and walk, which includes a children's fun run. Get on the Bus local tour of little known places of interest in the African American community, sponsored by the Tradition Keepers. Sankofa Days. Sankofa is a Ghanaian Adinkra term which means we must go back and reclaim our past so that we can move forward, so we can understand why and how we came to be who we are today. Sankofa Days are evening events held 7 days preceding the festival at various venues around the community. A post-festival activity is the Maafa Memorial Observance. Maafa is a Kiswahili term meaning terrible disaster, our Holocaust. During the Maafa Memorial Observance, discussions are held concerning the impact of our capture, Middle Passage torture, enslavement, and denial of human rights that we have experienced here in the United States and throughout the diaspora. Former Buffalonian Dr. Ma'at Lewis, an African American psychologist, has conducted healing rituals at Broadwick Park, a site where escaped Africans fled to Canada. Drummers such as Daughters of Creative Sound, a drum and percussion ensemble, poets, and the drummers and dancers of Access to Africa have participated in our ceremony. In the past, Canadians of African descent have also participated. Flowers are placed in the Buffalo River as a part of our homage to our lost loved ones who have been tortured or died as part of our Ma'afa.
This is the first annual raising of the flag for the Juneteenth Festival. We are very pleased to do that to highlight to the entire community.
Since 2012, our African Liberation flag has been raised in the month of June in front of Buffalo's City Hall with a small ceremony. The flag is on display for the entire month of June. Linkages with community organizations have been successfully held in conjunction with the festival. Organizations such as WUFO Radio, University of Buffalo, Motherland Connections, Buffalo Museum of Science, Buffalo History Museum, Squeaky Will, Langston Hughes Institute, African American Cultural Center, Healing Hands, Black social workers, and the Buffalo Urban League have partnered with us in the past. A partnership with WGRZ TV Channel 2 from 1999 to 2006 resulted in an annual half-hour television show highlighting the festival and local African American accomplishments. A partnership with the Buffalo Challenger and the Buffalo Criterion has highlighted the festival activities for the African American community. Relationships with other local television stations also highlight the festival activities to a broader community. Though the festival is our biggest event, we sponsor activities year-round which provide education, improve morale, and provide mental stimulation. As stated in our mission, we sponsor free to the general public programs. These programs are put on either by Juneteenth bearing all expenses or jointly sharing those expenses. These programs include Council Member for a Day letter writing contest. Students in grades 5 through 8 write letters to their Buffalo Common Council member on the topic, "If I were council member for a day, what would I do to make my city better?" The council member selects a winning letter and each winner is honored at a reception, spends the afternoon with the council member, and assists in opening up a Tuesday afternoon session of the Buffalo Common Council. Since 1989, over 2,000 students have entered the contest, which starts them to thinking about their future and their environment. We also have the Historical Marker Program, which works with the Buffalo and Erie County Historical Society. This program seeks to install metal weather-resistant markers on a metal stake that are placed at various sites in the African American community, describing the historical significance of the site, including William Wells Brown's home located at the site of First Shiloh Baptist Church. In 2010, Bennett Wells Post raised funds for a marker honoring African American colored Civil War veterans buried in Forest Lawn Cemetery. In addition, there's the Underground Railroad Education Project. In the 1997-1998 school year, Buffalo Public School children in grades K through 8 were treated to slideshows and tours of local Underground Railroad sites by Motherland Connections, who also has provided in-kind tours during the festival. Upon returning, students did projects illustrating their newly gained knowledge about the Underground Railroad. Approximately 1,200 students were educated and over 100 did projects. Students received certificates of accomplishment and their projects were displayed during February of 1998 at the Central Branch of the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Since this project, the Underground Railroad has become part of the New York State Regents Social Studies curriculum. Next, our exhibit project. In the 1990s, Juneteenth Festival Incorporated provided an exhibit for the main display case at the Central Downtown Branch of the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library during Black History Month for 3 years. Display topics were Blacks and the United States Constitution from the Schomburg Center in New York City, Great Kings and Queens of Africa, and Western New York's Underground Railroad connection. Lastly, our scholarship program in the early 1990s were able to award 10 $1,000 scholarships over a 2-year period thanks to a donation from Procter & Gamble earmarked for such. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated handled all the publicity, securing technical support, reviewing and screening applications, and selecting an interview committee that made the awards to 10 Buffalo residents. Some of our scholarship recipients are today teachers, 2 doctors, a minister, and an elected official. We plan to be able to award more scholarships as funding allows. In the past, members of Juneteenth Festival Incorporated have also contributed to, sponsored, or provided administrative assistance to such activities as Bidwiz tournaments at Little Harlem Hotel and Club 600, Tony Cohen's retracing the escape route of Boxcar Willie, an African desiring his freedom for the Smithsonian Magazine, Jet Set Entertainment's historical documentary on the Build Organization, providing African artifacts for exhibit in a local museum, and African American History Calendar sales. A new century brings new activities for the festival. A hospitality tent was created to provide refreshments to vendors who arrived early to set up and later provides a place where festival goers can sit and relax. A praise and worship service was created to provide spiritual protection for the festival on the Friday evening before. An innovative new activity added in 2007 is the Reenactment Committee. This committee has presented reenactments of the days of enslavement, reading of the Emancipation Proclamation, and now focuses on creating life-size African masks for the parade and the park.
I'm a history buff, and what was common knowledge to me wasn't common knowledge to a lot of people. And if we lose our history, we've lost everything. And we can't go on. History is going to repeat itself, as we can see with current events, that things that we thought would never happen again, that our ancestors marched for, that they overcame, they didn't overcome. We're still involved with the same activities today. And so, with knowledge is power. And if the more knowledge people have, the more power they'll have.
We have, in this country, a tendency to see African American people as people who were brought to these shores, and we've made a great stride thus far while here. But the problem is that leaves out 100,000 years of our history prior to coming here, and that's what we need to know. That's what the wider world needs to know. And then, we can treat each other equally, because we each have made enormous contributions to humanity. And that's why I'm involved, because I need the rest of the world to know who I am and what we're capable of.
A partnership with the Buffalo Public Schools Art Department in 2009 resulted in adding a popular art-making tent during the festival. An African-centered chalk walk was conceived by local artists Bill Cooper and Amin Ra as a mechanism for teaching children ancient Kemetic history. 2011 saw the addition of youth activities, a separate area in the park devoted to young adults with refreshments, bounce houses, and games. Also included was information on careers. A girls' basketball tournament was added in 2012. In 2013, we saw the introduction of two new activities. The first, the Marcus Garvey Science Tent, an all-ages science interactive activities with hands-on experiments and presentations from local national and international guests who are practicing in careers related to science.
Marcus Garvey talked to us about having a group of scientists, making sure that we teach science in our homes and make sure that that's a part of our future development. He talked about science and religion being two strongholds that we would have to preserve us in the future. As we see the changing of our city, the changing of the state, the country, we're living now in the age of technology, not mythology. So science, math, those things are going to be the foundations of how we reshape and we harness the energies of this world to come. And we stand in a position now to invigorate and to substantiate why we must raise the standards in our community, especially with education. We use the phrase full steam ahead. STEAM means science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
These young people live in the age of technology. And living in the age of technology requires them to start to be a part of what that growth in technology happens to be. That technology is also science and math. They can build a computer. They need to see that. They're so used to things already being prepared, but they don't realize we've had something to do with that. Our mathematics has allowed us to have other people learn from us how to do these things. So they need to see what we historically have done and laid out for others.
Next, we formed a partnership with the Archangel 8 Chess Academy. We received a state grant to purchase African artifacts, which will allow us to have a traveling exhibit coming soon. We have been contacted on numerous occasions by groups in other cities wanting to celebrate Juneteenth. Our success in festival planning was also shared internationally from 2003 to 2011 through an online class titled How to Plan and Implement a Community Festival on universalclass.com. The class was based on our past experiences and used our operations manual as a guide. It was a generic class that could be applied to any festival or public event. Because the website universalclass.com decided to terminate their author-built classes in December of 2011, the class is now being developed into a workbook which hopefully will be published and sold. Among those who successfully completed the class were students planning a flower festival in Denmark, a cancer awareness event in Arizona, a health festival in New Orleans, an international cultural awareness festival in South Carolina, and a Summerfest in Boston. Juneteenth Festival Incorporated works towards self-sufficiency by generating revenue from several sources. We rent a small apartment upstairs in our headquarters and also rent our meeting hall for private parties and family gatherings. Our sales committee sells refreshments, t-shirts, and other souvenirs, and African Center wears at the festival. We also vend at community events and sell on eBay. Our fun fundraisers have included bid whist tournaments, card parties, and skating parties.
We have to continue doing what we're doing because we're still not finished explaining to people what Juneteenth is about. We still have folks who really don't know what Juneteenth is about. You know, I ran into a gentleman who's slightly older than me, and it was very informative on his part to come in our building and get a really an education on what Juneteenth was all about. That means that our job is not even done.
I've learned a lot of the inside work, the background work, the things that bring everything together for the festival. I learned how important it is that what I do. I never would have guessed that there was so much work involved in putting together the parade and how important it was to the festival. And so every year I work harder to try to make sure that my piece of the festival is done well. And and when we do that, it kind of sets the whole tone for what people should expect from the rest of the festival. So I try to do my best to make sure that we put on a really, really, entertaining and just a really fun parade for the community so that they'll come into the park and see what else we have to offer them.
I'm Yo-Yo the Clown, so I did activities with the children in the park, so I've been very involved with the Juneteenth over the years. Volunteering is so important in any capacity. I don't care if it's, we need help. That's the most important thing. Being a volunteer is very important. And we get a lot of students, like high school students, because they need it for their community work. Mm-hmm. But being a part of it is exciting. It's a lot of work. And the people who put on the Juneteenth, they work year-round.
I'd like to see Juneteenth happen all year round. We don't really see a lot of us in positive situations at any time of the year. And in February, slavery is really emphasized. And I think we need to know more about our history beyond slavery and beyond entertainment and sports. So maybe we can have some programs in our schools, some summer camps, and some seminars for families, because some parents need to know about the history as well.
Over the years, I've become a board member, and one of the things that I want to contribute to the board is expressing the word. And when I say expressing the word of Juneteenth, it's not just coming out, taking part in the festival, but learning how to express what it is that we're doing. Why are we at the park? Why are we in the community? Why should we be a part of this, growing, fascinating festival? And really, my focus is still towards the young people, but I learned that over the years, we have to bridge that intergenerational gap, where we have to be able to communicate about why the history is important, and at the same time understand what the needs are of the young people to see what they need in order to keep the history alive.
Juneteenth
all of our cultural things, everyone can get involved in them. So you have different people from different cultures coming together, people from different age groups, people from all various walks of life that come together, but it's all together to learn about the history and to move forward and see how we can do this together. And so once we start raising that awareness and moving forward into the future, we'll be able to work together. We'll do our cooperative economics. We're doing our businesses. Vendors come in. We get the vendors together, and so they're making money. And many of them are from our community, so they are making money and it's staying in the community.
It started out as let's meet together on a certain day. Let's have some fun, and which is quite appropriate. And it slowly evolved into something that was much broader, involving the entire community, involving other cities, other states. So at one point, it looked like just the everyday people with their everyday dress would come out. Eventually, it became something where people had their Juneteenth dress. They would put their costumes on. Eventually, it became something that the Greek letters, the fraternities and the sororities came in. Teachers. We ended up with a number of teachers on the board of Juneteenth, and that guaranteed that we were going to focus on education. Along came the book fair, and many job fair, many other things. So at this point, there is no larger gathering in Erie County of African Americans that cover the entire spectrum of our community. I'm very pleased with the evolution of Juneteenth.